We're to the point of concluding this meeting. I didn't ask any of you to do that. I thought it was so much work, but I don't want to monopolize the whole thing either. But I was thinking about just going through the topics that were covered, and I think through the discussions we came up with a few things that we could be doing and things that we thought were important. We even had new ideas. So if I start with the first day, thank you. So the Thursday was about the survey and its tools. VVVX is almost done. That's great news, in some ways. We have huge progress in the catalogs, overall catalogs, or a program that can go into a specific field and do some deep photometry using the SKZ pipeline. VIRAC 2 is ready, and then it's all about how we access it. And from that first discussion, we thought that it would be important for Javier's catalog to be pushed to ISO. So it would be available through that.
As soon as the calibrating issues.
As soon as the calibrating is, so there's the calibration issue that is another big item, but
yes,
that's what Casu is working on right now.
Well, that's my concern is that they're not actually.
Oh, okay.
And so that was why I raised it, because I wanted to see if everyone agreed it was important, and it seems that people do think it's important. I mean, maybe not for every science case, but we want it before we produce our catalogs, really. And the public release actually of the catalogs is one of the things that helps support the survey, of course, as well. You know, we'll get more input, more support from the rest of the community once we have these public catalogs out there in a year's time or whatever it is. So that's another reason for getting the calibration done, so we can do this and we don't have people thinking it's a private thing for too long. Yeah, so because that was when I talked to Carlos before a week ago, I was a bit surprised that he hadn't been working on this stuff that Milky Way had shown him, because I had some email exchanges a few months ago, and so I need to take that up in action on me. And we can test some things maybe with the UberCal, because the problem with the UberCal is it's hugely CPU intensive, but to the point where even with a Hertfordshire cluster, some development is needed to make it possible to do it at all. So yeah, I need to have some discussions with Carlos and with Lee about that, because Lee's been involved in the thinking about how difficult it is.
And you're involved into that discussion. Is there anything that as a group we should be doing to have a bigger push?
Possibly, yeah. I think it might, I could sort of sound out Carlos and Mike Owen to start with, just to sort of see how willing they are up front. But if I need a bit of support to get them to understand that this matters, then I can come back to people, and people can provide, can sort of help to encourage me. But I'll copy in Dante, I guess, once I have initial discussions with them, and we'll see what happens.
I think, to speak for myself, I have to admit that I'm very looking forward to a catalog that is, I can take this one, publish it, and then I don't have to redo it again.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, to put it in perspective, it's only a problem for the inner bulge, I think, as far as I can tell. So if you're working at VVVX, it's obviously not an issue. Most of the disk and the outer bulge, it's not really going to change. So it's those areas.
And moving forward to access to the products. I admit, with the cookbook and cross-match in VSA, it's much better than it was just last year. But you raised up the idea to work with CDS and see if they would be interested to support us for transferring many of our products, so they would be publicly available in the way people expect it. I think that's something we can, in the long run, try to lean towards. So my understanding after this meeting is that it's not that we don't want it, it's not that we don't understand it, the importance, it's just that we need to get there. So before we get all those products and those catalogs all public and easily accessible, there's still a couple iterations required. That's my understanding of the situation, which is perfectly fine. Then on the next day, we moved on the time domain. It was quite exciting. I think that's one of the things that, I mean, being able to, on real time, detect, have alerts. I don't think this was planned at the beginning of the survey. This is kind of crazy, and hearing about Carlos going through all of the list that he has every morning is quite impressive. I'm glad that Chansu was with us because he sent a message. You can trust the broker. If you have all of those crazy alerts, even if you know that 80% are probably wrong, just flag them as wrong, and then people will decide what to do with it. So if we want, we can just push all those alerts without having to add additional effort, even maybe releasing Carlos' effort to go through all those alerts and have the broker dealing with what the community could do with those.
Well, he said he doesn't want to release them until it's in a better state. I mean,
I understand that.
Yeah, but he also said he'd like a few more people on it, because at this moment the emails I think are going to Mike Owen, Valentin, myself, and maybe don't know if anyone else gets them actually, but it's a very small number of people. And so he wanted a bit more input from the team into what's a useful, thing to trigger on.
Well, considering this is an unexpected effort, who can add that to their list?
Well, it's just, yeah, it's a coalition. It's not like everyone has to do it. It's just anyone who actually wants to, who's interested in potentially following these things up. So.
Well, yeah. So we could keep many alerts preparatory and have the advantage of following them up ourselves. But if it goes beyond the resources we have available, I would recommend just giving it to the community through those brokers. And then, I mean, VVV would still be the one that discovered the thing, and then the follow-up can be done by someone else instead of holding on stuff that would miss opportunities because we're not enough people for really taking advantage of this timely manner to detect them. I mean, I'm just offering that as a thought.
Well, I mean, we can probably put together a science case for follow-up proposals for targets of opportunity. That's not too hard to do. Mm-hmm. It's just, if he at the moment, sometimes he highlights a small number of alerts as being potentially interesting because they're high amplitude or maybe unusual, but he needs help from us to say what is unusual, what is interesting, just simple science. So we don't need people to look at lots of alerts. We just need people to have a 5 or 10 minute think about what you think would be an interesting thing to highlight the list.
Please add me to the list. I can help, but I disappear from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
I am unreliable.
Yeah,
but yeah.
You can trigger an
it will be
alert
fun.
when you're
No, it will be fun.
Yeah.
We'll put an alert on you.
Yeah, exactly. Don't add me. I have no time available.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm concerned. But if there's the will and the effort in the collaboration, then of course.
Yeah, no, it's just a sort of a thought experiment. You don't have to look at lots of things. Just have any thoughts you have on what might be interesting. It's just the concept, so we can put in the code.
Yes. How much time do we have left of new observations from Vista?
We have still 130 hours to be submitted. So the rest is already in the queue, and that's all going to be the outer disk. So this 230, so everything between 230 and 295 degrees longitude.
So all of the real-time alerts will eventually end in a year time.
At the moment, it looks the last will be
until we continue with UKID. UKID. Okay. Then variability. So how to identify, and there are some triggers coming from the supernova detected and all of that. So most of the variability part was on young stellar objects. As you mentioned just earlier, it's a boost in the field, and from 2 or 3 classes we'll end up with 100 or something. Because when you follow up, then you end up with that FURE means at least 10 different things, if I understand well.
Well, they're all, it's basically things with variable accretion or variable extinction. The actual mechanism that triggers that, it could be more complicated, but we're not sure.
Okay, yeah. Then, yeah, so I'm already at this morning with all the cluster and galactic structure. So there's a lot of power in progressing with that. We've heard it from Bob, and things are moving on. So as I mentioned, the possibility to have a way to publish the parameters of the clusters, but a way that you can update it, not having to dig in the whole publications and collect them all to know what's happening. So that could be the answer, the technical answer to many questions. For instance, if you were mentioning earlier, Alejandra, you said that what's the difference between the star rates in different radii of the galaxy? Well, if you have a catalog with all the clusters and the forming regions, you can just extract the information and look at the different masses, different extinctions, and then you can do your statistics. So this is in progress. And we saw that in terms of answering the fundamental questions about the structure of our galaxy, this can complete the census because there are many holes in the current techniques used. And we have the potential here to have a huge contribution for understanding the structure of our spiral arms in a same fashion we did not so long ago with the bulge. So this is what I see happening in the near future. I skipped it, but I want to mention the micro lensing, which is always a very fun part of the meeting because it's popcorn popping everywhere. Also because it brings so much information about, not only about the objects themselves, which can be monitored and we can find black holes and we can find planets, but statistically to understand the density of the line of sight that are probed. I think this is very exciting. Was that planned originally for VVV, or was that?
It was in the original proposal.
Seems successful. successful.
Yeah.
So those are my take home. We have our list of new things to do, I guess. I'd like to open the floor for any additional last comment before we come to earlier closure. He has had to leave. He wanted to say goodbye to everybody. He said that it was very unfortunate he couldn't be here in person, but he was pleased he could join remotely. I think we can in return say that we were very happy he was able to join, as well as Carlos. They were very useful in their discussions as well.
I like the speakers here. The heavenly voice is a good way of doing it.
And there is another catalog that is about to be released. It was mentioned, I think it's Carlos Eduardo with Nick. They were working on a massive catalog of variable stars. So if you are interested, just contact them. But they are about to publish this sometime.
Yeah, I must say I was a little bit negative to Carlos about it. I know because I read his draft paper just because it's a list of 44 million stars. I'm not sure it's going to be that useful because it's based on the aperture photometry as well. And only the 5-year light curve. So it's a usual case that Nick sort of gives him a project to do, but doesn't talk to anyone else who's actually doing the variable star science before he does it. So yeah, that's the negative. So if someone use it and prove me wrong, you know. Yeah.
Last thing, so we have another hour budgeted for the meeting. So we can come to an official closure with the discussion and the meeting, but you're more than welcome to stay a little longer if you can take advantage of this place. Or we can say goodbye and we meet again in Chile. Chile is for sure, we'll see where exactly in April or May. It was a real honor to have you over to Hilo, and thank you for all your contribution.
And well, thank you again for everything, and thanks to Terry and to the Gemini Observatory. Yeah, it was Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Terry.